Tom Clark's Main Event is a Boink Studios production. And now, on with the show.
This is Daddy's show. Step off.
Hey, what is up? Welcome to the program, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Ladies and gentlemen, my name is Tom Clark, and this is Tom Clark's Main Event. What's up, kids? Welcome back to the show. We just didn't even do the countdown today, did we? You know why? Because I made you wait 2 minutes, 3 minutes. Can't keep the good people waiting, all right? So happy Friday to you. Hope you guys are doing freaking fantastic. Hope you've had a great week. Hope everything's looking capital for you today. I am all situated. I got the laptop, the PC, the TV. I mean, it's Command Central here. This is the Main Event Command Center. I'm wearing the good shirt. You know, if I'm wearing the good shirt, it probably means we have a guest on the show. Shocker. It's not a shocker. If you've been watching the promotion, man, you know who we got on board today. So we hope you came for that. We hope you got some good questions loaded up. Before we get rolling with the man of the hour, let's say some quick hellos. My producer, Big Nate Dogg in the house. Everybody send your best to Nate. He's got physical ailments happening, but I'm not going to tell you what it is, but he's good. Sugar Shane Odom, old school in the house. Gary Benfield, owner, promoter of High Velocity Wrestling. What's up, Gary? Guten Tag to Sandy in Germany. Hope you're doing well. Jamel in Vegas. What's up? Hey, Shannon. How are you today? Russell Jackson, thanks for hanging out again, as always, man. Victor Vasquez, thanks for hanging out as well. Mark Gray, what's going on? Belinda, man, we got all the regulars here this week. This is always fun stuff. Jeff, what's going on, my friend? Christopher, what's going on? Ray Dean, Adam Cole fan in the house. My guest, we might touch on him a little bit here. Yeah, Ray's a big Adam Cole fan. So, William, long time since you've been on. Yeah, man, we can talk about that as the show goes on. Bobby, doing well. Hope you are. And Elvis Martinez and a bunch more of you showing up today. I appreciate it as always. We always have a great turnout. We always have great fans, great viewers that come along for the ride on the main event. Let's get some tickers ticking. There it is. This is episode number 217. 17 weeks removed from the celebration that was episode number 200. As we said before, kids, we do have a special guest here on the show. We're going to go ahead and get to it here today. Yes, kids, if you've been watching the promotion, then you know that we've been teasing this thing for, I think I've been talking about this for a good month. The man himself, if you are a fan of WCW, the good old days of the Monday Night Wars, and then on the tail end of that, if you're just a fan of good old-fashioned professional wrestling, you're going to know who this guy is for sure. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the main event, the Maestro himself, Mr. Rob. And I just took myself off the screen. Let's try that again, kids. There he is. Rob, what's up, man? Welcome to the show.
Hey, thank you for having me.
Yes, sir. Hope you're doing well, man. Thanks for taking time out of your day. We appreciate you being on. So we talked a little bit before we went live today. Tell the good people where you are right now, what you're up to this weekend.
I'm on my way to Florence, South Carolina for the Power Comic Con at the Florence Convention Center tomorrow. I'll be there from 10 p.m. to 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Wow,
cool. That's I imagine the social distancing restrictions are in place and everything. Hopefully they still have a good turnout. What number are they limited to? Have they gave you any specifics on that or anything? Because I'm just curious.
I really don't know that exact specifics, but they're taking every safety precaution they possibly can
Cool.
for everyone. But it should be a good time as always. And I'm going to be with my fellow cast members of the upcoming film I'm going to be in called The Devil's Daughter, which is a Harlequin origin story. So
nice.
Looking forward to that.
That's good stuff, man. We were going to get there eventually, but if you want to touch on that a little bit before we get into the pro wrestling stuff, man, let's talk a little bit about the Hollywood thing that you've got going on. You've been very active for the past several years. Is that something that just kind of came naturally to you, or was it a nice segue from pro wrestling, or was it something you'd always wanted to do?
Well, I took theater a long time ago, and I was in several plays. Hamlet, Macbeth. I was the king that got betrayed in Macbeth. I was one of the cats in the Broadway play Cats.
Nice.
Several plays in theatrics, and which actually led me into wrestling, believe it or not.
Wow.
and then gravitated into the film industry, which I'm really fortunate to do both these days. So it's really cool. So I mean, The Devil's Daughter is like I said, a Harlequin origin story, and I stars Dr. Jeremy Arkham in the film, and a lot of you Batman fans out there will recognize the character, Dr. Arkham and Harlequin. So a lot of Easter eggs, Batman Easter eggs in the upcoming film.
Well, you've got a comic book nerd in front of you right now, and I'm sure a lot of the folks here are as well. So you're talking my language now with the comic book stuff, man.
Yeah.
That's cool, dude. I'm looking forward to that, man, for sure. By the way, not to be rude, kids, I kind of forgot. Rob, these are the kids. This is Rob. Kids, say hello to Rob. Everybody make him feel welcome. My apologies, I didn't formally introduce you to everybody. We've got a very active, very vocal audience here. They say what's on their mind, but all of them are very respectful. You guys will get along great. We've already got some comments. So before we dive too deep here, let's go through a few things. Ray Dean says, "Hey, Rob, you are the man. Great finisher." Already getting some props. That's pretty cool.
Hey, thank you so much.
Yes, sir. And we were talking about cons, man. We typically, me and a few friends of mine would almost always frequent the Heroes Con in Charlotte, and went every year. Been going for I don't know how many years in a row. I'd went 20 some years straight in a row, and then last year happened, unfortunately, so it was called off. But man, it's always a fun time to go to those things, man. Are you a comic book fan at heart as well, or is it the con circuit just part of the Hollywood gig and the pro wrestling stuff?
Oh, absolutely. Oh gosh, I used to have like a ton of comics in my collection, and 30 years ago I was a kid, and so it's like it was pretty much a natural thing to get involved in Comic Cons. I mean, I wish they had Comic Cons when I was younger. I'd be all over it.
Yeah, I didn't start going until 91, and that was around about the year the Image blew up. And it's funny, I've been reminiscing over the Image brand over the past few days and watching some documentaries that they've done for it over the years, and just such a fun time to be a comic book fan. A lot of that also, that fans will echo that sentiment that the best time maybe to be a pro wrestling fan was during the days of the Monday Night Wars. And you know a lot about that, of course, in your time in WCW. But let's take this thing back to the beginning. And I don't want to do like a "this is your life" kind of thing, but let me start where a lot of guys start. Talk to me about your amateur career before you ever got into the pros.
Oh, goodness. Well, let's see here. I was amateur wrestling for quite a bit, and USA Freestyle Greco-Roman and all that. So it's it's been a journey. You know what I mean? And then from there, I was got in pro wrestling through some old timers. Gene Anderson, who was the one of the Minnesota Wrecking Crew with Lars and Ole Anderson, right?
Oh yeah.
Ivan Koloff and
oh, we lost Rob. Uh-oh. I have no idea what just happened. We lost Rob. All right, kids, technology, baby. What are you going to do? Everybody hold tight. We'll try to get him back in here shortly. Hopefully it's all good. Let's see. Yeah, he'll pop back in a sec. Everybody just hang loose. These kind of things happen, man. This is, no matter how good all this stuff works, sometimes it kind of goes a little south on you. So hopefully that he'll be back in any time now. We've got a lot of questions here coming in. Again, folks, we hope you've had a great week. Hope everything's going well for you. It's funny because doing some research for Rob here today, man, I've been watching some old WCW stuff, and in particular watching some of his old matches. And it's fun stuff, man, to go back and reminisce. A lot of people, again, talk about the Attitude Era and those days of the business being the best time. I don't know if I personally agree with that because I grew up during the territory days of the industry. And so that was sort of my thing, and I still have a love for that. And of course, we'll talk about some of that with Rob when he pops back in here. But here's the thing, kids. Again, talking about the territory days, big, massive shout out and deepest condolences to the family of Jim Crockett Jr. You guys know that we lost Jim this past week. Very sorry time. Very sorry to hear about it. And actually, we had lost Josephus just the week before. 2 NWA guys gone. Of course, without Jim Crockett Jr., the NWA would not have flourished the way it did in the 1980s, the territory era, the Mid-Atlantic Championship Wrestling. His influence and his stroke was felt throughout the business at that time, and it's still being felt today. If you're the Carolinas right now, then you know that this is Crockett country, man. You know how we roll down through here. It's always been referred to as Flair country, and it is. But at the same time, yeah, it's also Crockett country for sure, and that's kind of the way I've always felt. So, yeah, again, massive condolences to the family. We wish them all the best, and losing someone is not easy, as you guys know. It's something that you never really get past. You never really get past it. You just try to kind of get your way through it. So yeah, it's a big deal, man. And let's take a few questions before Rob pops back in. Andy says, "Hey Tom, it's been a while. Hope you're well. So who do you think? Who we think the signing?" First of all, I love Big Show to death. I love seeing him on Dynamite. I love all that stuff. At the same time, Show did call it Evolution instead of Revolution. It's okay. You get tongue-tied sometimes. To hear the words AEW and Tony Khan and all this other stuff coming out of his mouth, it's a different thing. Yes, for somebody that we've always been associated with WWE and Vince McMahon, to put the words of another company into his mouth on live TV, that's a big deal, right? So yeah, it's a different thing. It's a different animal to kind of see that stuff going down, but it is what it is. I honestly, I don't know if I have a take. I don't know if I want to set myself up for it to be some massive shock, some massive surprise, and then maybe we're let down. But I'll say this: I've given AEW the benefit of the doubt more often than not, because more often than not, they've never really let me down. And look, you guys can disagree with that. You can say that AEW lets you down all the time or what have you. But for me personally, I just don't feel that way. I mean, more often than not, the payoff for what they do in AEW is good. I don't have many complaints about it. So yeah, Toby's guessing that the signing is Christian. I don't have any idea who it is. I would tell you. Actually, I don't know if I would tell you if I knew. Spoiler alert. So yeah, we'll just see. I like surprises, man. I like surprises. Jamel says Lash is the champ. Yes, sir. I'm all for it. I like the Hurt Business concept. I don't like that he's been sort of bogged down doing other stuff this whole time. But we got the man back on the plan here, kids. Let's get back to him. There he is. What's up, Rob?
Hey, sorry about the connection issues. I'm back.
No worries, man. No worries. We were just fielding a few questions from the main event faithful here and getting a few comments from them as well. And I don't mean to bounce around on you too hard here or anything, but we were just talking about sort of the modern day business. How much do you follow what's going on today in the big wrestling companies? Do you tune in regularly? Do you catch it when you can, or where do you stand on that?
Yes, absolutely. Not only to stay in touch with my wrestling family, but I do weekly wrestling podcasts on VOCNation.com with WCW Retro and all that. So I try to keep and in the room also. So I always try to keep custom of what's happening currently in the wrestling industry.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to do a wrestling podcast, and unless your whole gimmick is that it's the throwback, it's on a certain time period. It's hard to do a wrestling podcast unless you're staying up to date. So I feel you there. This is a loaded question for you right off the bat here, but what's some of your key takeaways from what you're seeing right now? You're going to look at it much differently than anybody else would, because you've been in the ring, a lot of the nuances, a lot of what you're seeing that maybe regular fans won't see or maybe they miss. Do you have any key takeaways from what you're seeing from the business today? Any concerns, anything you like, don't like? What's your overall take on it?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of new generation of guys and gals working hard, doing their thing, and which is great because the wrestling industry is like a cycle. We're always giving back to the new generation to carry on the industry and art because a lot of us veterans are not going to be around that long, right? So we got to pass on the craft, and um, I think as us in the industry need to look out more for their younger generation and to because they're going to be ones to carry the load more or less. So, but it's just great to you got AEW, you got some hungry talent there, you got some hungry talent in NXT, Ring of Honor, New Japan, uh, and all these other promotions. It's really really great to see. So, it's good to see the younger generation carrying on that hunger and drive for the business.
And you mentioned AEW here, and I peg you as being an old school guy because I mean I know I am, and then I've seen your work over the years, and I kind of figured you'd sort of be an old school guy. We've heard opinions of some old school guys who do not care for the AEW product, and that's putting it mildly. Um, I don't know if I'm asking you to get critical of anybody, but you seem to be very open to the new stuff. Do you get why some of the guys maybe you've known in years past and maybe still keep in touch with today, why they have such a problem with that company? Or what is it that makes your opinion like you're more willing to look at what they're doing and take it at face value versus, hey, I'm going to scrutinize every single thing these guys and gals do? What is it about the way you see it that's different from maybe some of your colleagues?
I totally get it. Coming from the old school background, and even people in the WWE, like Jim Ross gets it. I mean, you hear him make remarks every week about certain things that he calls, right? So, I mean, and so does actually a lot of the younger talent in AEW gets it. Darby Allin recently stuck up for Jim Ross, for example, and everything. And for everything that they seem to be struggling with as far as psychology of a match and certain things they do, then they turn around and do something like a magic in the bottle the other night with Tully Blanchard, J.J. Dillon, FTR, and Sean Spears, and the Arn giving them the full horseman nod at the end. So it's like, for stuff that they are lacking, stuff they're struggling with, they come every now and then. You see some great things happen with AEW. I mean, you look at Paul White now; he's doing commentary with Tony Schiavone, and I mean that's huge news in the wrestling world. And he's teasing another big jump at the pay-per-view this weekend. So I mean, it's just, but I can see where they're coming from because I struggle with some things too that I watch, and I'm really proud of FTR, Dax Hardwood. I helped break him into the wrestling business.
Awesome.
And I'm really proud of him and Cash. And I'm proud of all the guys and gals I've helped over the years as well. You got the Luke Gallows, Bobby Roode, Petey Williams, even Sasha Banks mentioned my wrestling school a long time ago, bless her heart. So, I mean, yeah, I'm rooting for these guys, because these guys will be the ones that are paving. They're the ones that are paving the way right now, and we need them to be the best they can be, as far as storytelling, as far as entertaining us, as far as elevating wrestling to that next level.
And I think that your attitude is very refreshing, especially for a guy that's been around for a little bit. I mean, I hear opinions from other guys, and it's not quite as pleasant, not quite as reassuring. And I'm always thinking there's this notion that, well, Tom, the business has to evolve, it has to change, it has to morph in order for it to be around for another 100 years. I mean, but at the same time, there is going to be basics. You have the consistent battle of good versus evil and right versus wrong. You can dress it up however you want to. You can come up with any match type you want to, put anything on the poll that you want to. It doesn't really matter. The fact is, it's still the dark versus the light. I mean, I think if the day ever comes, personally, that we get away from that is when we've lost the soul of the business. What do you say to that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I mean, it's always been that way since the beginning of time, and always will. And especially the with emotion. Emotion is so powerful in our business, and without emotion, I mean, we might not even like step in the ring and tell the stories that we tell, because if we can't connect with our audience, and then and that's another thing, we're taught at an early age to respect our audience, and of no matter where they come from. So, if it weren't for our audience, we wouldn't even do what we do. So
I agree with that. It's a chicken and egg kind of thing, right? Because if no fans, there's no company, and it's you can
absolutely,
make the yeah, you can make the argument the other way if you want to, but I mean, I'm part of a wrestling company, and you and I have mutual friends through that company as well. And whenever we go to run an event, we want to sell the place out. It's not about. And I said this last week. It'd be great to have 20 people show up. We would do everything in our power to entertain those 20 people. We'd rather have 520 people. I mean, it's, whoever shows up, we'll give them the best show possible. But yeah,
that's it, man.
it's about putting butts in seats, about sending them home happy. And, that's what we're supposed to be about. Kids, if you're just tuning in and you don't know what's going on in the main event today, the man you're looking at here is Mr. Rob Kellum, also known as the Maestro, been a part of the pro wrestling business for a good long time. Worked his way up the ladder, worked and spent some time in USWA, WCW, Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Listen, let's just call it for what it is. I was talking about opinions of other veterans that are out there. Let's talk a little bit about Smoky Mountain before we jump too much into WCW. Talk about your time working for Jim Cornette, Smoky Mountain.
Oh, it was tremendous. They were kind of the liaison at the time between WCW and WWE, right? And so they're actually looking at us to pull talent, and for young guys like myself back then, who I was known as Robbie Eagle, along with the Jerichos, the Lance Storms, Bobby Blaze, Taz's. This is a treat for us. You know what I mean? Because we're in there with Kevin Sullivan, Rock and Roll Express, Heavenly Bodies, Ron Fuller, Jimmy Golden, the Moondogs. Oh my gosh, Primetime Brian Lee, Tracy Smothers, Dirty White Boy Tony Anthony. I mean, and the list goes on. I mean, it was Dr. Tom Pritchard. Oh man, it was just a tremendous time.
And there's nothing like being in the smaller venue, right? Being that close to the fans, it's a much more organic feel. That had to have been a blast, also.
Yes, yes. And I'd wrestled independently a few years prior, right, to being in Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and some of my first matches was with Chief Wahoo McDaniel, Ivan Koloff, Ron Garvin, and the list goes on. So I mean, that was great because I mean, it really paved the way, to jump into a territory like Smoky Mountain Wrestling, and those guys looked out for me, and I mean, it's and of course, I looked out for them. I was kind of like, back then, the territories you had, the policemen, and which what a policeman is if anybody gives anybody in the company a hard time, then the company will send the policeman in to kind of like bring the whoever it is back down to earth, right? And that was kind of like my deal. And because my wrestling background and shoot background and everything, and so yeah, it was really cool, and I learned a lot from those guys, man. And it really helped me start when I started doing nightly shows with WCW and eventually USWA Memphis.
We've heard stories over the years about wrestlers' court, and in the world of WWE, Undertaker was always the judge, and usually if you lost the court case, you had to cough up a 24-pack or a 12-pack or whatever.
Right.
Did wrestlers' court exist for you back in the day as well?
Oh God, yes. Oh yeah. But it was just like for minor stuff. It wasn't never anything serious, too serious or anything. Is like I remember having wrestlers court one time about who to give whose ride to the town, that type of thing. Oh man, it was pretty good. Yeah, I think Tommy Rich was involved with that. He was my old tag team partner, Wildfire Tommy Rich and Doug Gilbert. We were kind of like that. Had a Freebird clique there in Memphis, man, with feud with PG-13, and that was awesome. It was amazing.
Man, Tommy, and you know the buzz on a lot of the buzz on Tommy over the years has been Tommy doesn't have the best body, but man, he can talk a streak and he's got heart and God, he can work. Like just
God, amazing.
unbelievable. How much did you take from him just being around him? I mean, that must have been a great learning time for you as well.
Oh, absolutely. I learned so much from Tommy. I still do, and we still keep in touch. And I mean, it was just great. I mean, to see him come up with the angles for matches and the storylines and and just putting things together. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Uh, I mean, Tom was just amazing at that. And you had Doug Gilbert too. You know, his brother was Hot Stuff Eddie Gilbert, right?
Yes.
And his knowledge and man, the Gilbert family was being a part of that dynamic with Doug Gilbert and Tommy Woods was just amazing. And feuding with PG-13 was awesome. And to actually main event the Mid South Coliseum
I
with
mean,
all of us.
that's
That's
something to hang your
huge.
hat on right there. Yes.
Right, because only that nods usually gets the guys like Jerry the King Lawler, who had some great matches with, by the way. And I mean, if you had a bad match with Jerry Lawler, something's wrong in the universe.
Right,
and
right, right.
but and superstar Bill Dundee, you know what I mean? Those are the guys who would get the nods. But we had a chance to main event Mid South Coliseum. It was incredible, man. Just
Man,
incredible.
for fans watching and listening maybe after the fact, if that because a lot of people can't appreciate how red hot Mid South territory was. If you, dude, is there a way you can even put it into words? The atmosphere, the electricity. How do you get across to people who were never there, or never saw it, or never even saw it on tape? How do you get that across to someone to say, "Man, this place is insane right now"? I mean, how do you even get that across to somebody?
There's certain arenas you go around the country and around the world that you just get all at because of all the history going on. Because I'm a big history buff myself.
Right.
Madison Square Garden, the old Kiel Auditorium, the Omni in Atlanta. Remember Omni Atlanta?
Oh yeah.
Um, Egg Dome in Tokyo, Japan, different places like
Wow.
that with all the history. But Mid South Coliseum, it was like the who's who of the business was here. I mean, that Andy Kaufman's feud with Lawler started here. You know what I mean? It's just, I mean, Hulk Hogan, Macho Man Randy Savage, Ric Flair. I mean, the best of the best has been here at one time. So it is a huge thrill.
Yeah, you're right. The who's who of the business came through there. And Lawler's received crap over the years for like, oh well, Lawler didn't travel the world and didn't work in all these other territories like the big guys did. And I'm thinking he didn't have to. He made plenty of bank where he was.
Yeah,
Why would he want to travel the world and never see his family? He could just drive across town and be there. So yeah,
amazing.
again, I don't think people understand. And dude, I'll be honest with you, I think you came along at the best time because it was the tail end of the territories leading up into the big companies and the nationwide platforms. Dude, I think you came along at the best time where you weren't stuck in the territory, but then you also weren't the part of the new generation that didn't know what it was like to work in those areas. Man, I think you had the best of both worlds during that time.
Oh, it was great. Larry Booker, one of the Moondogs, he's the one that got me on to Memphis, right? Him, superstar Bill Dundee, to a friend of mine, William Regal.
Yes.
And matter of fact, William Regal and Dusty Rhodes were put in my head that my style and mannerisms favored the original Gorgeous George, right? And then it just kind of snowballed. And then finally, I asked my grandfather one day, I was like, "What's the deal? Why is everybody saying my mannerisms in the ring resemble Gorgeous George, right?" And he looks at me, right, and he says, "You didn't know?" And I was like, "Didn't know what, Grandpa?" And he smartens me up, right, and tells me that Gorgeous George was my granduncle, and that him and both of them were like amateur boxing buddies back in the day before he broke into business. So that's what inspired me to use the name Gorgeous George III for quite a while and honor him.
I wanted you to tell that story. I didn't want to tell everybody here, but yeah, kids, you're talking to someone descended from pro wrestling royalty for sure. I mean, you watch those old matches and those old clips, and he was doing stuff in his time that they're still trying to do today to get over and get heat. And you watch those old tapes, you're almost like, is this Hollywood or is this real? Because the way he carried himself and he was flamboyant. And I remember that one spot where they're running the ropes, and instead of going back to his opponent, he just stopped and started prancing around the ring. And I said,
Right.
oh my God, I'm so tuned in for this, man. And without Gorgeous George, you don't get Adrian Street, you don't get a plethora of other talents. And honestly, we don't get you as well. I mean, let's go to a few comments here because this got me thinking about it. Shane Odom says, because he's got a question, why did you change your
All right.
gimmick from Gorgeous George to the Maestro? Talk about that segue between being Gorgeous George and taking that name to becoming the Maestro in WCW.
Well, that in itself was quite a journey, actually. I just, I was doing my tour of Puerto Rico, right? And I got the call from Macho Man Randy Savage that him and Hogan had contacted Jerry Jarrett, who was a good friend of mine, and they were wanting to take a look at me to try out for a WCW Nitro, right? So they flew me from Puerto Rico to the Nitro to have a tryout match, and my tryout match was Jeff Farmer, who was later became the NWO Sting, right?
Right.
And I got to meet Paul White, who was known as the Giant, aka Big Show, right? And all the cats there, and Eric Bischoff, and they were going to do a deal where they wanted to give the name to Lanny Poffo, right? And bring me in under the whole new persona, if you will. And it didn't work out, neither one of us at the time. And so I just went on becoming, staying with Gorgeous George III and doing my thing. And that did tour Mexico with AAA with Jake the Snake Roberts. We were in Triple Mania that year. I think it was 97, I believe.
Right.
And which was huge. It was like their equivalent of WrestleMania. I mean, they had like valets dressed in a different personas walking us through the ring and pageantry. It was just amazing. And being there with some AAA veterans and legends like Perro Aguayo was tremendous. And you had Octagon, and you had Rey Mysterio there at one time, Conan, and all that. So it was pretty awesome. And then I got another contacted again. I got another tryout match during WCW, and it was with Chavo Guerrero Jr., which I couldn't be happier because I had much love and respect for the Guerrero family. And I mean, we used to pray together before matches, right?
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
And then after the match, I remember all the boys in the back were like giving us props, and Diamond Dallas Page coming over, man, bro, that was light years, man, that was incredible, right? And it was cool. And all the agents, check this out, all the agents come up to us, it's like, yeah, great match. If you could have done this or could have done that. And everybody told a different story. You didn't know which one to believe, right? And so I kind of remember back to when my grandfather always told me, is like, always know who the boss is, right?
Right.
So Eric Bischoff walks in the room, right? And he says, great match, guys. And he looks over at me and says, we could use a good talent like you. Welcome aboard. And as soon as he says that, all the agents changed their tune. It was like, oh, great match. That was awesome. That was tremendous. And I knew right then, if I had a problem, Eric was the guy to go to, right? And I remember walking out the door, there was like all the boys there, including Arn Anderson, shaking my hand, welcoming me to the company. And it was like one of the greatest feelings in my life. It was tremendous.
Just the feeling of you made it.
Yes.
I mean, and we've heard horror stories over the years about when that company was really on its last legs, about how there was too many bosses, too many guys calling shots, and too many talents calling their own shots. You never came off to me as being a guy who was like, well, I have to have this, and I want the music here, and my hair has to be this way. And I mean, what do we know watching just on TV? But through the years, I don't think I've ever read or heard or seen anything to lead me to believe, well, I mean, Maestro was a prima donna, and he was one of those guys that was calling his own shots. It just seemed like, man, I'm here to do a job, and let's just have fun and do this. I mean, that seemed to be where you were coming from. Let's just do business. I mean, in that way, I think you were separate from a lot of your peers at that time. Not to bag on anybody, but it just seemed like, hey, I'm not here for that fluff and nonsense. I just want to work. I mean, that must have been just the best time for you.
And it just, things just happened. It just flowed. You know what I mean? And I was just really blessed from one opportunity to the next to make things happen. And I know with the Gorgeous George III deal, I kind of joke around with some people that knew me back then, because I kind of lived the deal. For example, I had people doing stuff for me, and it was pretty wild. Matter of fact, when I first met Jake the Snake Roberts, right? And there's not only is he a mentor, he's one of my best friends in the business, and that's with Jake. That's how I met Diamond Dallas Page and Raven and Steve Austin. And well, when I first met Jake, right, I was doing my Gold Gorgeous George deal. I was having someone carry my bags, doing stuff like that. Of course, I've asked him nicely. Of course, I wasn't,
Right.
but, but Jake was like, "This guy's such a jerk. He's so arrogant." No, did Jake start thinking, "Wait a minute, this guy's working me,"
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and that's how we got to be friends, right? Because he found out I wasn't any of that. I was like, totally opposite, but I was just like working the persona. You know what I mean? So,
Right.
yeah, he was impressed, and for Jake to be impressed, that means something.
We've always hear about the young boy system in New Japan and how it is in that country in terms of, it's the black trunks, the black boots, you carry the bags, you do the laundry, yes sir, no sir, and you're learning your craft the whole time. I mean, uh, when it comes to wrestling here in the States, I mean, when you were coming up, was it sort of a very like a hierarchy, like you knew this guy's got more time in than I do, I'm going to follow his lead, and it's one of those things where not where you're bowing down to the guys above you, but you're taking what you can and you're showing respect. I mean, I think that in some circles that could be a lost art in today's business. I mean, you saw a lot of that coming through, I'm sure.
Absolutely, we always respect the veterans and have them help us out, and especially in match situations. Anytime I was in a match with a veteran, I knew it was going to be a night off because all I had to do is just listen to them, and everything's going to be all right. You know what I mean? Most of the time, anyway. But yeah, that deep respect, man, goes way back. I mean, it's just like family. You respect your elders and their knowledge and what they can do to help you out, and you always want to keep an open mind, be like a sponge, and listen to as much advice as you can. Even like the car rides and the plane rides to different towns and arenas. When you're with some of the veterans, I mean, actually that's the time to be under the learning trees. You can learn a lot from traveling with the veterans of the business. It's just incredible, and I learned so much, and I'm very eternally grateful for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're in a car for 2 to 4 hours, maybe, depending on where you're going, and what else you're going to do except talk, and you're going to talk business. I mean, it makes perfect sense. Ray chimes in with, "Did you have a manager?" I know the answer to that, but let's talk about your manager slash valet in WCW.
Yes, Symphony, Alicia Webb, who was also known as Rhea Shamrock at WWE, total sweetheart, and to this day, just a great lady for sure. And um, interesting enough, there was two before Symphony came along. There was two picks I had for to be my manager. Actually, one was Bobby Heenan, in which
Oh, wow.
being with Robbie and Gene Okerlund was great. I used to love hanging out with those guys. But Bobby he wanted the gig, but he was too busy, doing the commentary thing with Shivani, right?
Right.
And Sherry Martel almost had the gig, which I was very excited about because
Oh,
her
wow.
history of like Shawn Michaels, Harlem Heat. But
Yes.
but yeah, nothing but love for Alicia, man. I mean, she was awesome, and it was great. One of my first, matter of fact, Jim Cornette was one of my first managers back in the day, Smoky Mountain Wrestling.
Nice.
Briefly. So, and I've like downtown Karen in Memphis, Harvey Whiffleman. I've had various ones over the years.
See, I always knew Harvey as Downtown Bruno. So
Downtown Bruno,
uh,
right? Yeah.
you know what I mean? But yeah, the idea of, well, going to WWE, they have to own the name and all this other stuff. And I got feelings on that, but who am I? It's just one fan's opinion, right? But talk to me about where you were at the time and the culture of WCW. And I guess what I'm asking is the whole Maestro gimmick. How much of that did you have personally? How much input did you have from, wardrobe to hair to the piano to her name being Symphony? How much of that was you? How much of that was them?
It was kind of give and take. I had a meeting with Eric Bischoff to kind of work things out at the time. Um, to create the Maestro, and my envisionment of the Maestro didn't really come out till later on in my WCW run, where I envisioned the Maestro was more of like a fan of the opera type, had like a dark side, and with that later on in my WCW run when I was here, bad music and just snap and go psycho and ballistic. That was kind of like the envisionment I originally had, but I mean, I can't complain. I mean, they gave me a really good push, and especially I see I was on the road quite a bit with Chris Benoit and the Dean Malenkos, Perry Saturns, and all that, right? And then when all those guys left, I was like, oh my God, what's going to happen? You know?
Right.
And but things started rolling for me, man. And I remember one time being on the WCW Thunder with Bam Bam Bigelow, which was huge for me. I mean, because I had a lot of respect for Bam Bam Bigelow, and I'm thinking, man, this is the guy that was like in WrestleMania, Lawrence Taylor, man, and one of the greatest big wrestled Andre the Giant, one of the greatest big men in our industry, and it was just like huge. I mean, it was really cool for me to be in the ring with Bigelow, and so I'm just giving one of many examples, right? And matter of fact, my deal with David Flair actually was going to lead into an angle of Ric Flair at one point.
Nice.
And I was very excited about that because, you know, I love Rick, man. He's amazing. We talked quite a few times. I mean, not just in WCW, but even before then. I mean, he was like one of the first wrestlers I met. Him and Blackjack Mulligan at the convenience store, right, helping them with the drinks to their vehicle when I was younger. And then when I got in the business, they actually remembered me helping them.
Oh, wow.
They got me a drink. Yeah, unbelievable.
That's crazy.
Right? So, yeah, I was really excited about that, man. And then, you know, of course, a lot of greats there. Roddy Piper, and, you know, Scott Hall, who I used to team with in Memphis when he was Razor Ramon. And matter of fact, one of the first things he said when I started WCW in the office, right? Him and Nash walked in the room, and Scott looked at me and said, "Hey," you call me George, right? "Hey,
Yeah.
George, remember we used to beat up Lawler in Memphis?" Like, oh my God. But yeah, it was a good. Yeah, the Maestro was great, man, and Norman Smiley, Buff Bagwell, Ernest the Cat Miller, and the many others that I've had the pleasure of stepping in the ring with, man. And that was the thing about WCW, man. One night you can be in there with Rey Mysterio, and the other you can be there with like Macho Man, and it was just an amazing time. And I was just blessed to be a part of it during that great run.
You know, talking about the gimmick, man, you wore that gimmick, and it looks so good. And you know, you talked about the business being cyclical, and I totally agree with that. But I've been in my head trying to remember who did this before you and who's done it since. I mean, you can say there's variations of it since you've done it, but this idea of I'm the maestro, I'm the one leading this, and I'm the master of ceremonies, and this is my show, and this. I don't know that I've seen anybody do that since you did it. And her name being Symphony was perfect. And the look you guys had together. And I don't know, man. And I'm not blowing smoke on you here. I just don't know if anyone's done it that way since you did it. I mean, it just seems like in my opinion, one of the most original gimmicks I think I've ever seen. But what happened for me was whenever the bell rang, suddenly it's not that the gimmick was gone, but man, you were in my head getting after it. Like, dude, you attacked that mat like a madman every time. I'm telling you, like I go back and watch your matches now, and I'm like, I don't know if people at the time could appreciate the effort you were putting in for the guy that you were working with. And man, that had to have meant something to everybody you did business with in the ring, because I could see it from a distance for sure.
Oh, it was just, you know, it's the way I was brought up in the business. I mean, you know, you had the workhorses back in the day. You know, Tully Blanchard, Arn Anderson, Ric Flair. You had the guys that could wrestle a broomstick and have a great, phenomenal match. And the Bobby Eatons, you know, Dennis Condor, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll, guys like that made Ricky Steamboat. You know, and the guys that, and personally been blessed to be in the ring with and learn from, and to adapt to each one of their styles. And the one common thing that they had is no matter who in the ring with and what situation they're in, they would create magic. You know what I mean? With their timing, and they know what to do, what not to do, and the pacing. And it was just incredible. I learned all that from them, and to be in the learning tree of those guys, man, you pick up some great stuff. You really do. And I was really blessed to get myself in really peak condition back then. Because I would train like a track star, man. I would constantly run and be in the gym and do my thing, and see Ric Flair do like Hindu squats for an hour before a match was inspiring. And it was just it was just great. And Tully Blanchard, you know, I mean, was always phenomenal shape, still is actually.
Yeah.
So I mean, those guys inspired me to really push myself, um and to learn, you know, like a psychology of a match. Because our philosophy is you want whoever you're in the ring with to be 10 times better when they come out, no matter what happens.
Right.
Because that's the sign of a true workhorse in the industry. And that's what kept Flair on top. Because no matter when the chips were down with the promotion, they brought in Flair to lift up business, because they knew he can elevate and make it right. And we need more people like that in the industry.
Because it's all about, hey, if both of you have the mindset of, I'm going to make my opponent look better than he could with anybody else, then it's a win for both of you and a win for the fans, because they're going to get a great match out of it. So,
absolutely. And FTR is doing it right now, AEW. I mean, it's like no matter who's on the roster, what tag team's on the roster, whether they're going after the championship or you're just debuting or what have you. I mean, don't make them look like $1 million.
yeah, it's the give and take, and as the old saying goes, shine them up, right, and make them look good. I mean, if everybody's got that intention of let's put the business over, not just myself, then yeah, and then the guy that you work the next night is going to want to work you because he saw what you did the night before for the other guy, and he's going to be like, hey, let me work with Rob because look what he did for the guy over there. I mean, it's a chain
Absolutely.
reaction, isn't it? I mean, one hand washes the other, right? So.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way it used to be, giving back to the business, elevating each other. I mean, it wasn't it wasn't what you see much like with today. You know what I mean? Isn't trying to tear someone down. It's to elevate everyone involved. You know what I mean?
Yes.
That's how you tell a story, and that's and once you get the fans' emotional connection in the mix, it's a beautiful thing. It really is.
Toby chimes in with Rob, who's the best technical wrestler that you've ever seen personally? We can tweak that and say, who's the best technical wrestler that you've ever faced in the ring? Do you have one that jumps to mind?
Oh gosh, oh man,
that's a hard one, right? Because you worked a lot of good guys in those days.
I mean, you're talking Dean Malenko, whose family is one of the greatest wrestling families ever. William Regal, hands down. I mean, if this business was a total shoot, guys like William Regal and Haku would be world champions 10 times over, because those guys are double tough, man. And they're some of my best friends. You guys got them, Fit Finley.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I mean, the list goes on. I mean, so yeah. I mean, that'd definitely be some of my picks.
I mean, we're seeing great things from Haku's sons, Gorillas of Destiny in New Japan. We're seeing great things from David Finley's kid as part of Finjuice. I mean, the next generation is rolling on, man. But yeah, it all started with you guys back in the day. Sugar Shane asks, how was your relationship with Lance Russell and Dave Brown? What a fantastic combo those two guys were, man.
I love those guys, man. They're amazing. And you couldn't ask for two nicer guys that were willing to help and do what they can for you. Always much love and respect for Dave Brown and Lance Russell, man. I miss them.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I can't imagine. Will asks, how big of a culture shock and change was it from AAA to WCW?
Well, it really, actually, AAA really helped me get accustomed and prepare myself for WCW because, when I got to WCW, you had all these different styles. You had the European style. You had the guys from Japan, guys and gals from Japan. You have the guys from Mexico, email and AAA and all that. So it was just kind of I'm glad I did do the tours like I did because it just prepared me to jump to that next level. So and I saw some cool familiar faces too as well, and so it was good. It was a good time, and it you're thinking it's like, okay, now I see why I went to this place and that place to prepare myself for this one, right? So it all made sense. It all intertwined together.
They're a lot looser with the way they work in Mexico, like no tagging in and out, and it's
Oh yeah.
you got the valets everywhere and the ring girls, and it's a different presentation, but it's what they're used to. I'm curious. You mentioned Puerto Rico earlier, and I got to ask you about that because, man, we again talk about fans hearing stories over the years, but how volatile was Puerto Rico at any given time? I mean, did you work heel when you were there, and if so, how many batteries got thrown at you? Because, man.
I know if you're brawling with a guy like Abdul the Butcher, and you're more scared to death of the crowd than you are of him, and he's like protecting you from debris, and you're telling Abby, "Thank you, thank you." That says something.
Oh my God, that's the best.
The emergency lane is like the third lane down there, man. And I mean, my pillow used to be thumping all night because he had fiestas all the time,
Wow.
And yeah, but it was great, man. We toured the island. They had strong TV. Wrestling with Carlos Colon was,
Yep.
Carlito's dad was a big thrill, and being down there with some other friends, Sean Morley, Val Venus, Dutch Mantel, Rex King at the time, Vito Lagrasso, and a few others was, I mean, and I got to reunite with my old tag team partner from Memphis, King Mabel, Bell
Nice.
Viscera there.
Viscera,
yeah, so
yeah.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that I felt that the Viscera thing was right down his alley, and it's funny that he got that toward the end, because almost like, well, he did the other stuff before that was okay, but then when he got that, it just seemed to be like, oh man, this is him. This is totally him. I mean,
yeah.
It's funny how some guys go a long time in their careers and they hit that one spark, and all of a sudden they just blow up for sure.
Oh, right. It's something that takes time to find themselves in business. Yeah.
Let's see. Ray asks, how did you come up with your finisher?
Which one?
That's a good question. He didn't elaborate, did he? What was your go-to finisher in the ring? I'll put it that way.
Oh, I had several. When I first started, I had different suplexes. Matter of fact, I had a match with Taz there in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. All we did was suplex each other the whole match. It was fun. It gets both had an amateur background and everything. So yeah, it was great. But like when I got to WCW, now I was doing the shoulder breaker in Mexico for AAA, right?
Right.
But in WCW, went with the Encore, which was like a version of STF. Step over to hold face lock, which I learned that from Masahiro Chono.
Nice.
And which he was trained by a guy that I used to call for advice early in my career if I need some help, which was the great Luthez. So
can't get much bigger than that.
So I did that for a while, and then towards the end of my WCW run, I was doing a modified Cobra Clutch called Dakota, which in musical terms means the end. Right.
Very good.
And but as far as the musical end of the Maestro deal persona, I collaborated with Jimmy Hart for that actually, which was cool because we were both from the Memphis area and everything, and he had that musical background. He was with Derringer one time, right? And,
yes.
So it was great to work with Jimmy on that. He the sheet music and all that sort of thing. So yeah, and he helped put it all the elaborate candelabra had the set when I come down, the baby grand piano and everything, and it was really cool. Yeah, Jimmy's a great guy.
Did he ever sleep? Because it seemed like he was always bouncing off the walls.
Oh yeah, I wish I had some of his energy.
I'm telling you.
I don't know.
Toby,
Orndorff would would defer that one. I remember. Well, what happened was I was training the power plant a few months prior to my debut, right?
right.
And I was on way there to Smyrna and flying there actually, and Big Reese. Big Reese was on the seat next to me, right? And he was like squishing me next, because I was sitting next to the window of the plane, right? And he was squishing me, laughing me and at me and everything. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, you just wait, right? So we get to the power plant, and then we're doing these kicking drills to, for training, to help our cardio, right? And it just turned out, just so happened that they put Reese with me, right?
right.
So so I started kicking him, just stomping a mud hole, as they say, right? And to the point he couldn't even, I blew him up. He couldn't get up. And afterwards, Paul Orndorff took me to his office, and he says, "You know what? They used to say I was crazy, but you're a maniac." And I told Paul, all I could think about was that dadgum plane ride with him squishing me over there.
I bet he never did that again. So there you go.
Nah, he was cool after that, right?
Yeah. Toby asked, "Did you ever work Bruiser Brody?" Oh, have we lost him again? We may have lost Rob. Hold on, kids. Brother, if you can hear me, I can't hear you. I think you might have froze up on us. Yeah, we've lost him. We're at the top of the hour. I don't want to sign off this way. Technology, baby. What are you going to do? So, kids, this is a fun show, isn't it? I love getting stories, man, for real. We got him back. There he is.
Hey, sorry about that.
No problem, man.
I laughed so hard I knocked myself out of connection.
There you go. So we had a question. Did you ever work Bruiser Brody?
Oh man, funny you mentioned him, man. He was like him and Stan Hansen were two of the first people I actually seen in live wrestling. You know what I mean?
Wow.
And which I was and back then I was really fascinated with pirates, so I would always call him Blackbeard every time I'd see him.
Right.
And he would get a kick out of it. The elbow, hey Stan, he called me Blackbeard. He digged it. He thought it was cool, right? And they were my heroes back then, man. Brody and Hansen. And I wished I did more with them once I started the business, because I mean, to them they were like the cat's meow, man. They were like, they were like my first true pro wrestling heroes at the time, and him and Hansen.
And not for nothing, but if you're working Bruiser Brody back in the day, then you're probably going to have a pretty good payday yourself. Because man, him and Hansen were writing their own checks in Japan, man. I mean, there were stories of them coming back to the States with duffel bags full of cash. I mean,
right. I remember Steamboat telling me one time that back when him and Jay Youngblood were teaming up, right? That they had a match with Brody and Hansen there in Japan. And they're thinking, well, we're feeling out, see how it goes. They're thinking they might blow them up, right? The ring. But he said when the match started, he said he looked at Jay and said, my God, these guys could go, because I mean Hansen and Brody were just back and forth with Jay and Ricky all over the place, man. And he said them as a team was just amazing.
I don't think we've ever seen a duo like them. You could say Hawk and Animal maybe, but in terms of explosiveness and the ability to draw money and the ability to put a crowd not only on its feet, but run from you when you go through the crowd. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever see a team like them again, man. I mean, that's some crazy stuff.
It really is.
Right. A lot of people during the chat today have mentioned the Cat. Talk to me about Ernest Miller, man, about what it was like working with him in WCW.
Oh, Ernest Miller, great guy, man. So entertaining. I mean, he's a 3-time karate champion, and that's all legit. Let me tell you. I remember some of the house shows we did, right? And and he would just do his karate bit, and I would just do the wrestling bit. It was great, and he was such an entertaining guy that he made everything he did work, and it was a lot of fun being around there because we would think about ideas together and everything, and the whole deal with James Brown was just it was just so epic, man. It was amazing.
That's great stuff, man. What was he like behind the scenes? Was he open to? Because I mean, he's Mr. Show Business, so that must have been what he was on his mind. Let's go give the people a show, right?
Oh yeah, he was so cool, so respectful. Matter of fact, he was telling stories about my granduncle because Gorgeous
Oh,
George inspired him, and I was meeting guys like him and Muhammad Ali, and hearing what Gorgeous George did for them, right? You just get goosebumps, and
yeah.
um, so it was great. I mean, yeah, what class that guy, and man, when he made his entrance there at Super Brawl with us, with the cat and I, man, oh my God, I mean, the roof just came off.
That's good stuff. That's some amazing memories right there. We've talked a little bit today about what's going on today in the business. I'm curious, how would you feel about coming back at some point if AEW, WWE, or whatever, it's a manager role or it's maybe a coach behind the scenes? Would that be something you'd be interested in at some point?
Oh yeah, the sky's the limit. What I mean? And whatever I can do to give back to the business, that's. I mean, I love pro wrestling, and I mean, we're family. I mean, once you're in, you're in. What I mean, no matter what. So,
Right, right.
yeah, and yeah, whatever I could do, um, yeah, to help, because I always have love for professional wrestling. I could be acting for television and film and doing the other things, but pro wrestling will always be a big love for me.
Well, let me hit you with this. I don't know if anyone's asked you that during the course of the show here today, but looking back on it, is there anybody that, and I don't want to ask if you got regrets. That's such an odd question for anybody, in my opinion. But is there anybody that you look back on and say, God, man, I wish I could have worked that guy. I wish I would have had a chance, just one match with somebody. Is there anybody that sticks out for you?
Yeah, I've been really blessed. I've worked at Dusty Rhodes, the Ric Flairs, Ricky Steamboats, and the list goes on and on. I think the main guy I would have loved to step in the ring with would be Kurt Angle.
Hmm.
Just because the fact that he's, as we like to call, brother of the mat. I mean, he's amateur wrestled, collegiate wrestled, wrestled the Olympics,
Right.
and everything, and which I came one match shy of qualifying for the team
Oh,
actually,
wow.
because I was in USA Freestyle Greco-Roman, and I got to train with the Iowa Hawkeyes, and when I was doing it. So I mean, I had a really good run, and I try to give back, helping out some of these kids, some of these tournaments sometimes, and doing all I can. So, but yeah, Kurt Angle would be the guy because I've always had a deep respect for him. What he's accomplished. I mean, you have to understand the Olympic athletes like him, for example, Ronda Rousey,
Hmm.
and the Dan Gables. I mean, they're like a breed above your normal athlete. I mean, your normal athlete trains hard, but your Olympic athlete is just on a whole new stratosphere.
Yeah. Got to be in peak physical condition for sure.
Hmm.
Toby asks, do you have any advice that you give a young person wanting to get in the business?
Well, it's persistency. Persistency pays off. You got to just believe in yourself, and other people believe in you.
Hmm.
Learn from the right people that have been there and done that could help you keep yourself physically and mentally in good shape. Um, Try not to get involved in the drama because it's easy to do, just like in life. Is just stay away because drama can weigh you down like an anchor,
Hmm.
and stay from that and politics and everything, and just keep your eye on the prize. And no matter what happens, don't let anything stop you from your goals and dreams in life, man. Happiness is everything. Just stay strong.
It's great advice, man. Looking back over your career, you got a lot to be proud of. And as I said before, you came along at a great time. You got to live out your dreams, and you're still doing that today. And you've got a big career ahead of you, I'm sure. Um, I don't know if you can narrow this down as we kind of wind it down here today, but I don't know. Do you have a favorite match? Do you have a favorite night? Do you have a moment where you're like, it's just not going to get any better than this? I could leave today and it would be okay. Because do you have any moments that really stick out for you all these years later?
So many. So many. Oh my gosh. Some of the matches I had with Rob Van Dam were truly amazing. This is like pre WCW and ECW, right? So,
Hmm.
so yeah, that was great. The matches I had with Barbarian were tremendous. Cause sharing the ring with guys like Ric Flair, Ricky Steamboat, um, Arn Anderson, Paul Orndorff, Ron Garvin, Jimmy Garvin, who we used to team together actually.
Oh, wow.
um, yeah, and Wahoo, Ivan, just being in the ring with the very best, on a national level, overseas level, um, from the best from all over the world. It's really hard to pick one, and I've had all types of matches too. Uh, of course, some matches it was a struggle to get through, but I mean, but I just been blessed to all around to just been with the very best and some great people, and then I hope I can give back, keep on giving back to help some of the greats today. And whenever I see people that I've helped do well, it really uplifts me because I feel like I've had hand in it and I vicariously live their happiness. So it's a really a great thing.
That's good stuff, man. I don't think we could go out on a better note than that. Rob, before we get out of here, if you got any social media you'd like to plug, any upcoming projects, appearances, please have the floor, man. Feel free.
Great. Well, my official website is thestro.com, thestro.com. Merchandise page is thestro.com/merchandise. I'm on Facebook at facebook.com/Stro the Maestro. Twitter @Destro. My YouTube channel you can subscribe to youtube.com/Stro Maestro. I'm on Twitch for you gamers, twitch.tv/Real Papa Stro. WCW Retro podcast every Thursday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on vocnation.com. I'm going to be in, I mentioned earlier about the Devil's Daughter film I'll be starring in. For more info, go to facebook.com/Real Devil's Daughter. I'm also starring in the Dust series as the Chief, which you can check out all 3 seasons on Avail TV at availfilms.com, which is AVAIL films.com, or on the Dust series YouTube channel, just youtube.com/Dust series. I got a horror movie coming out this coming year called Stench of Iniquity, which I portray an ancient vampire named Abba in the film, which you can check out more dates for that with facebook.com/Stench of Iniquity. And I got some an upcoming mini series and pilots in the works, so I'll definitely keep everybody informed. But yeah, keep in touch with me. Let me know how you guys doing, and I'll definitely do the same. And yeah, thank you guys for your love and support, man.
Always, always. Rob, thank you so much for coming on the show today. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to take you off screen for just a second, say goodbye to the kids. Everybody, thank Mr. Rob Kellum for showing up here today and for hanging out with us for a little bit. Rob, thank you again, my friend.
Oh, thank you all.
All right, kids, there you go. The maestro himself, Mr. Rob Kellum. Small little glitches aside, it's technology, baby. What are you going to do? It happens to me here in the office all the time. So we hope you guys enjoyed the show. This has been, of course, Tom Clark's Main Event. Thank you, as always, for hanging out with us here today, for showing your love and support to the show and to Mr. Kellum. Please go check out all of his social media. And let's make it happen, kids. Get out there and support the man. All right. He's put his time in the business to entertain fans over the years, still doing that today. So yeah, go show some love. He's one of those guys that we talk about here every week on the show. So yeah, go out and give him a follow, give him a like, check him out, give him some good positive feedback. I know he will more than appreciate that. All right, man, we're going to get out of here. Everybody have a great weekend. We'll be back next Friday as always here on the show We appreciate you guys hanging out with us as always and for making this show fun as you do each and every week. Be safe, be happy, be healthy out there. Wear your freaking mask. Let's get back to life, kids, because I'm ready. I know you are. Let's get out of here, folks. Thanks again for hanging out, kids. We'll see you next time. Tom Clark's Main Event.